Hello everyone and welcome back to Creative in Conversation, the official podcast of Tala Academy Sequential Art, TASQ Art. Tala Academy Sequential Art was founded by me, your host, Owen Macaulay. We're just coming up to our second anniversary, our second birthday since we opened our doors, and we began with various different masterclasses, some of which were featured in season 1 of Creative in Conversation. As we begin recording for season 2, I'm releasing a couple of bridge bonus episodes. These episodes were recorded prior to the founding of Tala Academy Sequential Art, back when I was Program Director for the BA in Animation at Pulse College. We had a designated panel room at Dublin Comic Con where we recorded a couple of interviews and masterclasses with various guest speakers, some of which you would have heard back in season 1. And now today I'm presenting two conversations, the first of which will feature Jess Nesling. Jess is an actress who you may know her work from Baldur's Gate 3. If you enjoy Baldur's Gate, I also recommend that you go back and listen to season 1 of Creative in Conversation and my interview with John O'Brien, who was the producer at Larian Studios, who worked on that game as well. Jess, in today's interview, was at the time developing a new project, teasing it. I believe it's still heavily in development, but it's perhaps a little bit more in R&D at the moment. And the main feature of it was around the women of Kilmainham Jail. Those who are familiar with Irish history will know the subject of Kilmainham Jail is heavily steeped with the 1916 rising, where many of the leaders of that uprising were also executed. It's also, as a side note, I would point out that Joseph Plunkett, who married Grace Gifford and is the subject of the song Grace, which was written in 1985 by Frank O'Meara and Sean O'Meara, she herself was also an artist and a cartoonist as well. So just keeping in line with some of the topics of comic books within the podcast of Creative in Conversation. So sit back, relax, and enjoy today's conversation with Jess Nesling on Creative in Conversation. Welcome, Jess, to Dublin Comic Con. Welcome virtually to March 2023. Thank you for joining us live today in the Convention Centre Dublin. So today's topic is mainly just discussing, we're here with Pulse College Games and Animation Campus based in Dublin, Ireland, and our main focus is towards those who are looking to pursue working in the industry in many different forms, from narrative, character design, animation, and of course you bring a unique facet to it because you have experience in the realm of voiceover and motion capture as well. So many of us are aware, well, what this is, but what actually goes into it from that point of view is something we like to discuss a little bit more. So just to begin, Jess, what's your background? So how did you break into the industry? What did you study? Was this the original roadmap plan that you go to college and then go into, or was it a different story that unfolded?
So I am originally from Swansea in South Wales, and I went to school there, went to a lovely comprehensive, same as Russell T Davies, who brought back Doctor Who. And I was actually quite a shy child. I was, just did very academic, but the idea of doing drama terrified me. And then this film came out called Ice Age, and you know the story, Owen, but I absolutely loved it. I was in, I think, year 8 or year 9 at the time, and I got the special DVD that showed them behind the scenes in the booth. And I just had this absolute epiphany of, oh my gosh, that's a job. That is a job that I could do. And so I looked into it, started researching it, and it sort of seemed that the standard route would be drama school and you become an actor to become a voice actor. And I know that's not everyone's route, but I thought, okay, let's give this a go. And so I suddenly told my parents in sixth form that I wanted to study drama at university, and they were kind of like, what? This is a bit of a curveball. So we made a pact, and I did French and drama, and I had the best time. I studied theatre in France for a year in Paris, and then came out of university and thought, no, I think this acting thing is maybe something to pursue. So I applied for drama school, was very lucky to get into ALRA in London and studied there. And it just completely cemented my love for voice acting. I loved it so much. I had a fantastic teacher there called Peter Darney, who was gold. And then, so that was, I graduated in 2014, but it took 3 years for me to get my first voice job. it's quite a tough industry to break into. And yeah, so it was with it was a running app called Zombies Run with 6 to start, and it was one of the most fun experiences I've ever had working. And yeah, then it kind of just snowballed from there, and I've gone from playing, well, theatre wise, I've done a lot of Shakespeare, a lot of outdoor theatre. I've just come off the back of a year-long tour of the UK and Ireland with Gangster Granny. But yeah, with the voice side, it sort of snowballed, and I went from playing sort of background characters, NPCs, to getting playable characters and having a lovely narrative to play with. So yeah, it's and here we are.
And full disclaimer, I know nothing that goes into acting, but one thing I do hear is about acting being kind of like, what is it? 50% of acting is reacting or something like that. I know nothing along those lines, but when you're doing voiceover work, then I know some folks do it in a sound booth, so you might not actually meet your fellow actors. Now, in animation, sometimes the preferred method is to record audio first, because the animators then can take reference from the actors and it's easier for the dub. But a lot of animation now is the dialogue's recorded first and then animated afterwards. For yourself, you mentioned you have experience like in theatre performance and live performance, and then but you also do it for games as well. So how does that translate then? What's the translation of that into, like, from stage to live performance to recording? Was that a difficult transition for you to make, or is it just more use of the imagination, I suppose?
Definitely a lot more use of the imagination, and also a lot less rehearsal time. So as I'm sure you can appreciate, a lot of the time the scripts are sort of still in development whilst you're recording. So you will quite often get the script when you get into the booth. And obviously with theatre, you have maybe 3, I think the National Theatre, they have a fantastic like 2-month rehearsal period to kind of get into character, to find, to explore, to physicalize and work through and work with others and bounce off them. But when you're, most of the time when you're doing voice work, it is just you, and you've suddenly, you've got a director the other side of the screen and a technician, and they're just kind of explaining the world, and they'll give you, and often because of NDAs, you don't even know what game it is. So you're just kind of like, cool, okay, love the concept. And they'll just talk you through what your character's motivations are. So it's kind of, you fast forward that rehearsal period into a very short summary, and then you've got to just give the same amount of performance, like there and then. And so one of my first voiceover jobs, I was playing multiple non-playable characters with a fab company called Linja Sound, and the client didn't quite know what voices they wanted. So I was then pinging around the UK. I was aging down and up and all this kind of stuff. And it really, at first I was like, oh my gosh, how far can I go? What can I do? And now I just kind of go like, how wild do you want me to go with this? And I'll just play around and I'll flip between accents and worlds. And that gave such a solid foundation. I mean, for me, theatre gave such a great foundation for voice work. And it's been mentioned by a few directors as well, that they love working with theatre performers because they've got the stamina. Like for Dark Tide, there was a lot of shouting, an awful lot of shouting, and they're really good. They look after your voice, but it's very much, you have to support, you have to project, you have to be able to sustain that. The longest session I did was 3 hours of army barks. So the transition from theatre, having that vocal warm-up under my belt, having that, I've got a bit of a reputation as having lungs of leather because I've shouted into fields with outdoor theatre for so many years. So that transition has really helped, but it was a bit jarring not having a rehearsal, having this summary of the world and the character, and then going, right, cool, here we go. And it's like, oh my gosh, wow, we're away. But then I think, especially with the characters that you have more than one session with, you kind of grow with the recordings, you grow with each session, and you kind of develop more nuance. And I feel that the more you have that opportunity to do that in the booth, the quicker it just becomes snappier. You kind of go, okay, yes, this is the world, this is it, da da da. and it just becomes easier. And if you're working with a great team, great directors, that just cherry on the cake.
Have you ever had that experience where you've worked on a project, but again, you haven't been in the same room with your fellow actors, and then later you meet them and you're like, hey, we actually worked together on a project? Does that ever happen where you're just like, oh, you've worked with someone, but you haven't met them yet? It's kind of crazy how that can happen in the pipeline of production.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And it's amazing how you can be crossing paths with someone coming in and out of the studio, and you don't know, they could be someone that you're hearing the voice for in the booth sort of, 5 minutes later, and you have no idea. It's so strange. And like, one of the things that I do love about acting is the collaboration and working with people. And it can feel a little bit lonely, but sometimes you are sort of lucky to get if someone's recorded before you, then you get their voice coming through the cans, so you can sort of bounce off that a bit. But yeah, there was actually a guy, I was in a studio doing a mocap job that I can't talk about yet. And this chap was saying it was his first session there. And I was chatting to him for a bit whilst he was getting suited up, and it is an experience getting into a mocap suit. And he was saying, oh, this is new. And so we were having a lovely chat. And then he was leaving the studio a few days later as I was walking in. And I went, Ben? And he didn't recognize me out of the suit. And I don't know if I should be flattered or not. But it turns out we were then working on the same project, and it was his voice coming through my ears as I went into that next session. So, it's such a strange world, and I love it.
It's often like what they say, it's a small industry, isn't it? Everyone gets to know.
Absolutely. Yeah. There was another game that I did, and the voice came through, G2 Fighter, which came out a few years ago. And a voice came through. I was like, why do I know that voice? And it was Doug Cockle, who voiced The Witcher. And I was like, oh my gosh, do I get to meet him? No, I did not get to meet him at all. But yeah, it was just like this, it's sort of here, you get to meet them.
Yeah, that's always amazing when, I have a friend as well who works in industry, and it's the same with the NDA. It's they work on this major project, and I can see them bursting to talk about it. And then so I was like, they have to wait until, I don't know if it's the same for the games industry, but it's usually when a trailer is released is usually when they can finally talk about it, but they can't breathe a word until then.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's normally the case, but there's a game that I'm part of that's meant to be coming out this summer. And they're very tight. They're like, even though the trailers are out, it's like, no one say that they're like, the newer characters don't say that you're involved. And it's just like, oh, I really want this. It was one of my favorite experiences, and I'm bursting to talk, but got to respect the NDA.
For contracts like NDAs and such, what experience do you have? Is there someone to like talk you through that? Do you have like a solicitor to read through? Because I'm just imagining, as a total novice to it all myself, suddenly I'm focused on trying to get a job. Then when I get it, I'm suddenly presented with this paperwork. And then like, what do you look for in it? Like, is there something that you've learned in time to be savvy around, like, oh, this is what this point means, this is what to look for here? Or do they talk you through that? Or do you just learn that as through experience, as you get a few jobs under your belt, you just learn as you progress?
A little of column A, a little of column B. I mean, I'm very lucky that I've got a voice agent who is happy to kind of talk through if I've got any questions or something isn't clear. But generally, NDAs are quite standard. So the first time I sat there and I sat with a cup of tea and I just read through the first NDA I had through. I was like, right, okay, clause 13.7, okay, 17, okay. And I was just like, right, okay. And now it's kind of, you're used to the standard, the norm. So anything different sort of pops out to you. But yeah, I mean, I'm not even sure how much I'm allowed to say about what's on an NDA, but.
Yeah, what we do is we say nothing. We'll say nothing. That's the safest bet.
Yeah, it is a very sort of fascinating thing, because again, like theatre, you just don't have it, and that is my other main source of income. So yeah, it's a very different process, and especially when it's like a AAA game, there's a lot more to consider and a lot more to to sort of, yeah, just have it at the front of your mind, and just like, you can't say this, and wait, and yeah.
It's always interesting from teaching animation students. I teach modules like business and entrepreneurship and brand and marketing, but we're teaching them subjects, elements in the module, I should say, like cash flow, because, you know, they need to learn how to balance the books. And then they might think, well, I'm going to be an animator, but then they might lead a project one day. And these are kind of like the auxiliary skills you pick up. That's why, you know, when you're studying at third level, why the essays are still important, and, you know, the academic reading and writing, because whether you care for it or not, it will find its way back into your career. We have I believe, a couple of game devs present in the room as well. So they'll probably, and we'll go to Q&A in just a moment, but they'll probably be interested in, is there any tips from the perspective of you, the performer, when it comes into, you know, delivering a performance, or what you look for in the game? Is there anything that you've seen? What sings to you like game? Like, were you much of a game player yourself, first of all, before you got into VR? Like, did you play video games much, or even board games?
Well, I've actually just bought a PS5. The last console I had was PS1. So I played like the proper old school, like Rayman and Tomb Raider and that sort of stuff way back when. But I've just started playing God of War, and even just getting used to the controller, it's so different. I was like, oh my gosh, this is fascinating. So I kind of slipped back into gaming because I'm in the world, and I want to honor the fact that I'm working in this industry, and I love researching, and I'm getting, there was one day I sort of started at 11:30, and I looked at my phone and it was like 3:15, and I was like, how has the time flown? So I think, yeah, if in terms of narrative, something that can suck you in to the point of losing time is is brilliant. I think having a clear narrative structure, characters who have great motivation and who are exciting. And this is probably just me, but like for female characters, to describe a character as strong, for a man, it's normally about physical strength, but for women, it's normally about their resilience. And I just feel think of other adjectives for female characters. That's something that's like, it just comes up, get time and again. She's strong. I'm like, cool. What else is she? Tell me more. Give me more depth. What else is she? Is she flawed? Is she like a rule breaker? Like what? Tell me more. Like, I think that's, and it is definitely getting better, but it's just something like a buzzword that comes up again and again. I'm like, cool. What else is she?
No, that's a fair point, absolutely. And I just want to circle back around. Then I want to talk about other facets of your career as well. There's maybe some about your writing and theatre work as well before we throw open to Q&A. But just before we move on from the VO work and mocap work, you just mentioned about having an agent, that you're lucky to have one. And I know this, I'm more familiar with from a publishing point of view, but that can be tough, that trying to, you know, find an agent. And what goes into that? What you expected from a, you know, a portfolio point of view? Or is there a portfolio or a show reel? Like what goes into it? If someone here has aspirations to go out and seek an agent, like what steps do you recommend that they, you know, consider?
So I actually got my first voice agent in lockdown. So that's fairly recently. And it was because I built a booth in my garden with my partner. And because of lockdown, everyone was in isolation. So having a home studio was all the rage. And so I managed to get a very, very good agent. And that opened the door to a whole new world of voice work for me. Before that, I'd done a lot of indie stuff. And what's great, though, I did a lot of work with the students in training at places like NFTS, Met Film School. And one of their projects, what's it called? Covert Operations, COVRT Operation, got nominated for a student BAFTA in games. And it really was fantastic to work on that. It was absolutely brilliant. But yeah, it's just kind of before, like, to get an agent, you've kind of got to have either profile as an actress or actor, or credits under your belt. And it's kind of like the sort of chicken and egg. If I don't have an agent, can I get credits? And you absolutely can. There are absolutely great opportunities. I did a lot of sort of smaller games like the Zombies Run one, that was through another website, this website called Mandy.com. I think it's called Mandy now. No, Casting Call Pro, and it's now called Mandy. And so you don't have to have an agent to apply for that sort of level. And then building up that experience, I thought, yeah, this is definitely something I want to do. So I got some reels made. And the standard industry expectation is a commercial reel and a narrative reel. That was a few years ago. Now it's animation reels, gaming reels, like audiobook reel, like da-da-da. And so you can really sort of specialize in what you want to do. And so I got a gaming reel made, which piqued the interest of my agent, who saw, home studio, and she said, oh, okay, this is, and so it's kind of, the expectation is that you have credits before you join an agency. Normally, if you're, I don't know, Tom Hiddleston or, I don't know, Michaela Cole, you'll be fine.
I think that's a good point as well, where you mentioned like it was a student BAFTA nominated project. That's why it's good we always encourage our students the extracurricular activities. We do like host the Global Game Jam is one of the events that we host and such here. And that's good because even if it's not going to be your commercial breakout, it's sufficient material for the portfolio to make, the potential agents or future employers aware of the work that you have as well. So it's great to hear. I'm going to use this as a point when I'm encouraging my students to participate in our extracurricular events, and I'm like, see, the system works. And I just want to, just one last quick question, and then I'll just move on to just other facets of your career as well. But you just mentioned about your home recording booth that you set up. Do you think now there's an expectation post-COVID that if you're going to embark on a career in VO work, that they expect perhaps that you're set up to record from home and record remotely? Do you feel a kind of shift towards that, expectancy, or is everything more or less, it could be split or back in the studio?
I think it's split now, obviously during COVID, and even sort of the few months after the world was opening up again, the expectation was a home recording studio, high-tech, high-standard equipment. And there were situations where companies would send out equipment for people to set up at home so that they, could still record. But I think now it's interesting because with the acting side, self-tapes are still huge for auditions. And so normally first round, you'd be in the room, but now it's kind of second round, and sometimes even, final stages, that's when you get into the room. But I think with recording, just because if you've got however many people, say 30 people on a project, and they've all got slightly different setups, it's a nightmare for the tech team to match up all the different audio and get the levels right and everything. So having that consistency from the tech side is important, but also, I think having people in the room and having the director right there, it's quite helpful. Although one thing I have noticed is directors and movement directors tend to be working more remotely than the performers now, because they're like, oh, I can work from home, that's great. And so it's kind of flipped.
Okay, interesting. So that's one I didn't expect. Okay, so they work remotely now. And so I just want to move on, talk about some other projects you're involved in. I'll let you lead the way in this one because I don't want to put you on the spot for anything that you can't, I don't want to talk about, but I'm just aware that you also, as well as being a performer, are developing writing projects for performance as well. I was just wondering if you're at liberty to share some of the projects that you have in development, your personal projects.
Absolutely. So I am currently, as you know, Owen, writing a play about the political prisoners in Kilmainham jail from the 1920s. I've got Irish heritage, and a family friend from Kilkenny very kindly gave me some letters written to his ancestor, who was a political prisoner there. And it's been something I've been so keen to make sure it's as sort of historically accurate as possible. So I've done a lot of research. Brian, one of the curators at Kilmainham, has very, very kindly given me a private tour for I think it was 2.5 hours behind the scenes at Kilmainham, seeing all the graffiti that's still there, all the different spaces that are referred to in these letters. So it was incredible. And thanks to funding, I've been able to do some research and development sessions, which are workshops with performers using the letters as impetus. And so, yeah, it's going to have its first iteration in the summer, which is the 100-year anniversary since the letters were written, which is, it feels pretty special. And yeah, I'm about a third of the way through, but because it's such a big cast and I'm still determined to make it a big cast, it's quite tricky in terms of staging, in terms of making sure people have fair like dialogue and, you know, that kind of thing. So I'm a bit of a perfectionist, and I will get there, but yeah, I'm hoping to do a few more R&D sessions, research and development sessions, in April. And then, yeah, we'll have it on in July, and hopefully, Owen, you will be able to come over and see it.
Absolutely, I've been really looking forward to the project, and very excited to see what comes of it as well. And just having the experience of, you know, being a performer and now writing, are you drawing much upon your experience as a performer? Does that inform your writing? If so, what are the elements? Has it been that perhaps when you read a script you went, oh, I wish it was like this way when you perform it? Like what has it been? What's the influence been?
It's so also like part of my writing story is when I first moved to London and I was a poor teenager, I used to review theatre as a kind of way of seeing more theatre. And I feel like that side of it, as well as my career, has really helped me to realize what I enjoy about theatre and what I don't enjoy about writing. And like, you know, how different characters, like how they interact with each other, what their motivation is. I think that's a really like key point for me, because if you've just got a character who is basically there to help your plot, it just feels a bit, ooh. And I just want to make sure everyone, like, you know, all characters have their purpose. Another thing, I've mentioned Michaela Cole already, but something that I love about her, just as a little sort of side quest, she will give every single character in her shows a name. Even if it's like bartender who has one line, they will have a name, because it's just about kind of giving the character and the performer that kudos. And it's like, you are, you know, you are a relevant part of this world. You're not just sort of a piece that we need. It's, you know, to just further the story. And so I just think that's really key. I'm trying to think what else. I think reading scripts, you see what makes you go, this is exciting, this is different, this is, you know, oh, I love the way that this has happened, and oh, I didn't see this coming, and, you know, that kind of thing. And the same with TV. Like, there's some great like TV and film out at the moment, and it's sort of seeing how the narrative flows, how like the beats in the story are clear, that kind of thing. It's all, yeah, it's all fed into me wanting to go, yeah, I want to give writing a go. And you know, my first full-length play, let's see if I can incorporate those aspects I've learned along the road.
Awesome. Can't wait for it. Okay, so I've been going on quite a bit here, and we're just nearly closing in on the 30-minute mark. So before we wrap up, are there any questions from the floor that anyone wants to offer up? Yeah, go ahead.
Just speak.
Yeah, if you want to come up and speak. Yeah. Actually, no, you might have to come up closer to the mic. So if you want to come up, sorry about this, our microphone system is a bit crazy. If you come up to about here, just here, yeah, and if you say, hopefully, Jess, yeah, come a little bit closer, yeah, and go ahead, yeah.
Hiya, how are you doing?
Hi, good. How are you?
Very good. I have maybe a couple of questions, but let's start with the one that are more relevant, let's say, for me and my friend that are also here. You said that you've done a lot of indie games, the voice acting for indie games. And besides, we understand the experience that it was pretty cool. Did you play any of them yourself?
No, I haven't. That's why I've just moved into a new flat, and so I've got a console so that I can actually start to play them. Because I really, like, as I said, I love being in this world, and it's interesting to see the end result of all the hard work that everyone's put in.
Cool, no problem. My other question is then, even though you didn't play it, but you were a part of it, do you think that, and I guess you will agree, the live voice acting in a game will bring the quality of the game much higher than just making the effects? Okay, there are several things, like if you're doing with the indie developers, they usually don't have the money and they go for the cheapest option. But I guess you would agree that it brings up the quality of the game itself when it's somebody designed by the professional voice actor than just us looking online for free sounds.
I think so, yeah. And I think what can be done, which helps sort of everyone involved, is if you target like drama schools, because it's people who are learning their craft as well as, you know, as well as the indie games. It's like, you know, you are kind of getting people who are still good quality and who have an understanding of how to use their voice and how to sort of switch emotional gears very, very easily. So it's not just kind of, I've seen a lot of social media shout outs for people, and it's like, do you know what, that you can get raw talent. And I've got a lot of friends who didn't train, who, you know, they don't do acting, they just do voice work, and they are phenomenal. They are really, really talented. So I think it's kind of, I would never say like rule out people who haven't trained. I would never say that at all. But in terms of, you know, if you know that, if I don't actually know the drama school system in Ireland, but if you've got that resource, then absolutely tap into it. And, you know, if people are wanting to get into voice work and are performing and haven't yet broken in, like indie games is such a great place, because it's, you are going to get talent, you are going to get people who are excited to work on the project and who are going to give it their all. And so it becomes a much more exciting collaboration. It's not just about sort of the talent in front of the microphone, it's who you're working with, and do you enjoy working with them? Are they easy to direct? Do they understand? Are they bringing something to the table? So I think, yeah, there are lots of elements to consider with that one. Sorry, quite a long-winded answer. I hope it's helpful.
No, it's good. And I guess you would recommend it to them. Definitely. Can I ask one more?
Yeah, sure, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. The reason why I'm asking all of this is because I had the chance to actually meet one actor that is really famous here in Ireland, and then we spoke a little bit about games and, you know, voice acting, and I just out of curiosity asked him, like, would you like to work a little bit with us, like to do something? And I did send him like a little fragile, just to do something to see if we test it, if it's working. It's not, it's quite a work anyway. But I sent him some email, and then I met him again, and I asked him, like, did you take a look? And he said, yes, I'm working on it, and that's all cool. But I asked him, like, but are you bored? Do you like this, you know, like as a thing? Because I don't know, we don't know each other that well. And he told me, like, man, I'm actually very happy that you sent me this, because this is part of my career that I was not actually developing that much, and I always wanted to, but, you know, there was no like opportunity. So when it comes to that, I'm actually curious, when you're not working on the projects, but you're working on yourself as a practicing, I guess it takes a lot of practice. Like, what is the standard procedure for you? Like, you warm up? Do you copy somebody else's voice? You do yours? You do a combination of it? Like, how your working day looks like when you're working on training yourself or keeping the shape of your voice, which I guess it has to be done.
So for me, I actually had a very interesting chat with a couple of other voice artists just yesterday, and I was saying how I like warm up, and especially with things like Warhammer, where you are just shouting like plague or grim, all this kind of stuff. To sustain that, you have to look after your voice, and for me, it's my career. So I'm very keen to warm up whenever I have, especially when I've got a vocally heavy session. I know other actresses in theatre and performers, but there's one person I've got in mind, Charlotte Palmer, who, if you ever get the chance to work with her, she's an actress over here in Britain, absolutely fantastic. She's amazing. But, you know, I did an outdoor tour with her. We were all there projecting, testing, making sure that, especially in the different spaces, that we could be heard. Her warm-up was genuinely this. She'd sit, she'd put her makeup on, she'd get into costume, and she'd go, right, everyone, have a great show. That was her. And I was like, my God, and you could hear her clear as a bell across a field. Like, she was incredible. So it kind of depends, you know, what you've got to work with. But for me, I warm up. In terms of other skills, I love learning accents. I use phonetics a lot. I also did a fantastic workshop with a woman called Yvonne Morley, who gave me a toolkit that I use to this day. And it's about the ingredients for a voice, and it's pitch, pace, tone, resonance, and age. And it's, you kind of tap into those different qualities to create an ingredients for a character. And I think when I started out, I was very much, I'd sit there methodically writing it down. Now it's become muscle memory. So if someone says to me, we need this kind of voice, it's like, oh, I've already got that in the bank. Boom, there it is. So it's kind of, I will always like to learn and grow and develop, but like I've got this toolkit that I always refer back to and will use in any situation I'm given. There are situations in games where I've been told, we want this as a voice reference. I also do a lot of translations from Chinese to English. And so they say, we want this voice quality, but with your accent. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool, interesting. And so it's then being able to be elastic with that as well, and not just my idea of a character. It's someone else's idea that I've got to honor. So it's having that toolkit there that lovely Yvonne gave me. To just go, right, okay, so that's the pitch, that's the tone is this is like the pace of it, da, 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 da. And so you kind of break it down and then you have to build it back up into a character rather than being able to hear those cogs, if that makes sense. So yeah, there's a lot of work that goes on.
Sure. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome, very welcome.
Super, thank you. Do we have any other questions on the floor? extensive Q&A there. Awesome. Well, listen, thanks so much again, Jess, for joining us today. Really appreciate it. Hopefully we see you over here in person for a future show. And just before we let you go, where can folks go to find out more about your work and support you in your career?
Oh, wonderful. So I am at Jess Nesling on Instagram and Twitter. Whenever I am allowed to post about games, I will definitely be posting on there. And I've got the games that I am allowed to talk about are available on IMDb, which is sort of 15-year-old Jess is going crazy that she's got an IMDb page. And yeah, I think my website is in development at the moment, but I will definitely be getting more up about the work that I'm doing and also my writing. So jessnesling.co.uk is hopefully one to watch.
Awesome. Thank you again. Thanks everyone for asking questions and coming along as well. So give up for Jess again. Thank you so much. I'm just going to end the recording here. Thank you. Many thanks to Jess for taking the time to speak with me. And now for the second part of today's bonus episode, I go back to August 2022, where it was another Zoom interview with co-producer The Simpsons, Nikki Isordia. Nikki joined me and helped to shed some light on how the production of The Simpsons have changed during post-COVID. Obviously, not many people were as familiar with operating on Zoom, and then this very conversation we were having was delivered at a convention room via Zoom as well. And she also takes some questions from fans in the audience as well. So to close out this bonus episode, I leave you now with Nikki Isordia at Dublin Comic Con from August 2022. Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining us today in the Pulse College room at Dublin Comic Con, and thank you especially to Nikki Isordia, co-producer of The Simpsons, who has very kindly accepted our virtual invitation to the show this year. So throughout the weekend, we've been doing panels and talks with various different industry experts through games, animation, film and television. And so Nikki, just to begin, how does one end up working for The Simpsons, I suppose, to begin? How does the journey to that begin?
Well, for me, my Simpsons journey began, I think I'm at about 17 years now on the show. I had moved to Los Angeles to actually pursue a career as a makeup artist for TV and film. Through that, I got a job as a receptionist for Film Roman. 9 months later, The Simpsons, I had made friends with people on all the productions, but Simpsons needed a PA in the design department. So I went for it. And since then, I've kind of climbed through the ranks, PA, coordinator, supervisor, manager, associate producer, and now co-producer. So it's been really cool. It's been crazy because it's not what I set out to do in my life. I always knew I'd end up somehow in the entertainment industry, even from the time I was a child, and I grew up being a huge Simpsons fan. I started watching the show when it was shorts on the Tracy Ullman show. So it's really cool. It's very surreal to be here now, getting to help create this show that I grew up watching and so many people grew up watching. It's kind of a little bit a magical story, I guess. I feel like I set out for something but landed where I needed to be. And I love it so much. It's been such a great ride and fun and interesting and exciting journey so far.
Oh, that's awesome. And so you were just saying, so what was your background in terms of, I suppose, breaking into the makeup design side of things? So you said you always wanted to go into entertainment of some kind. So did you go on to study any, I suppose, the prosthetics, like special effects in regards to that? Or was it more screen makeup? Or?
I did do some special effects. That's actually my favorite style of makeup to do. I love like zombies and like the really gross stuff. I think because it's a little more free creatively. So yeah, it's just something I kind of always was good at. Halloween's my favorite time of year, you know, always doing makeup for friends. So that's kind of, I didn't go to school. I was self-taught, which is the same on The Simpsons. I did not go to college. I did not go to college for any of this. I've learned along the way, and I'm still learning every single day on this show.
And that's a great story of persistence as well, isn't it? You know, it's it doesn't happen overnight at all. Sometimes people on the outside might think, oh yeah, that just, you know, it just happens. It's like trial and error. And it's really interesting just how your journey has, like, you started out in a different field and found your way now into animation. So with regards to your current role, you mentioned associate producer, now co-producer. What's the evolution? Where does that come into the pipeline? Are you at the pre-production stage or heavily in post or actual production?
I'm involved in all of it pretty much. I mean, I have my hand in a little bit and in along the way. We do have other, you know, storyboard producers and that sort of thing, but I do get to be involved in the entire process, which is really cool. And it's different because, as say like a production assistant, you're kind of in a little, not like a bubble, but maybe, you know, not seeing the entire picture. So it's really cool that I've had a chance to, as I've moved and learned along the years, I've gotten to like learn about all the different departments. So now as a producer, I do help manage and oversee a little bit of everything at times.
Oh, that's great. And what was it like then seeing it from the outside, like as an audience member, and then suddenly, you know, now you're involved in production? Did anything ever change? Or do you ever look at an episode, like a past episode before you joined the show, or even the second, do you look at it differently now that you're involved in the team?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, I came into this knowing zero about animation and how cartoons and, you know, this stuff is made. So definitely I do watch not just The Simpsons, but I do watch when I'm watching other animated shows, or I go back and look at old Simpsons things. And I actually watched Snow White recently. So knowing now like what the effects department does and like those sorts of things, and the animators and like all the hard work and love and care that goes into these shows, it's definitely like given me a new set of eyes to watch it, and even bigger appreciation for this style of art.
Oh no, that's awesome. And with regards to, I suppose, just in terms of like your role in the pipeline, in terms of communication, like, is this, I suppose this is getting a bit in between the weeds, but is it just ordinary emails being sent to and back, or do you guys have like a designated server? Would you have like when communicating, uploading? Because I know years ago when it's done by hand with cell animation, that's no longer the way, so it's all digital. So I can't imagine that's just like an attachment to an email. So is there like a shared system that to send those assets, I suppose?
Yeah, definitely. And it's been crazy. I started when we were still drawing on paper, so I've got to witness that evolution, which has been really cool. We do have a server. We're all digital now. So we have a server, and we make a season and there'll be show folders for each episode. And then within that, we set up our pipeline for all the different departments. So everything is moving digitally. Communication is huge. It's so important. I'd say it's one of the top like important things in this sort of role. And for everyone, not just in production, for the animators, like we need to be really transparent and open and communicate with each other, especially now that we're all working remotely, because we are still working at home. We haven't been in the studio since the pandemic hit. So it's become even more important that we stay on top of communication and stay open with it.
And what was that translating from in office in studio to remote then? What was the first few days like that? Because I know even for myself at the college, it was like 24 hours and we were all
It's like, crazy.
You know, yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. We had a little bit of a warning. We knew it was coming. I had started going in on weekends with one of my, I was a supervisor at the time, so with one of my producers, and we were kind of trying to figure out like what can be done from home, you know, how are we going to do this? So we started talking about those things probably about a week or two before we went home. And then it was just like, we got word on a Monday that we had to be out of the studio by Friday.
Wow.
So yeah, it was crazy. I came up with a little bit of a system. I got the PAs involved. You know, we had like a checking system with the PAs to make sure that the artists knew how to take their equipment home and reconnect it, because we had everyone take their equipment from the studio. Yeah, and then I had it like a little, you know, machine line working. We had everyone working from home. Well, not everyone. I'd say about 75% of people were up and running and working from home by Wednesday of that week. And then by Friday, we were all out. I was, I think, one of 3 last people to leave the studio.
Okay.
It was a little rocky. We had to come up with, you know, some changes for the pipeline and the way we did things and the way we communicate things. So the first few months, you know, there were some little things we had to work on here and there, but I think everyone adjusted really well, and our team really worked together and came together and made the transition like really smooth as we could. So, and it's been going good.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome. And I suppose just again, just some fan-based questions, I suppose. Did you have like a particular standout episode of The Simpsons that you always like, that was your go-to episode before joining, and then since you've worked on production, like is the one that you look back on fondly from your time with them that just stand out as well, or are the two the same?
I always like the one Lisa and, you know, happy birthday Lisa. That was one of my, that as a child was one that really stood out to me. I have a couple of other favorites. I think the first episode that I coordinated, I can't remember the name of it up right now. The story was Milhouse and Bart, or one of the storylines, Milhouse and Bart built a robot seal.
Okay.
And they were given to the retirement castle to help, you know, people live longer, I guess. But that was my first episode as a coordinator, and so that one's really special to me. And on top of it, David Bowie is my all-time fave, and the end of the episode had the David Bowie song, so it felt very right to me. Now we have some things that we're working on now that I can talk about, but I'm really, really loving and enjoying. So you'll all get to see soon. But there's some really good stuff that is now like, oh, that's my favorite. So
that must be the toughest part of the job, when something like awesome's happening and you have to sit in it for months or years, like, oh, can't say anything yet.
Yeah, it's really hard, especially when I have like family and friends that are constantly trying to like get in there and get some questions answered.
Well, speaking of questions, hopefully we won't be, you know, asking anything to break any NDAs. But does anyone in the audience have any questions they'd like to ask at the moment? Yeah, sure. Do you want to come up and ask, or do you want to ask them there?
Want to ask here?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
I guess
what's the hardest part about being a producer?
Okay, so the question of this game is that did you hear that?
Yeah, what's the hardest part of being a producer?
Okay, cool.
Yes.
Managing people is really difficult sometimes. I would say that's the hardest part. I mean, it's a stressful job at times, but I really love that, and I thrive in that kind of environment. And there's so much more that's rewarding and fun about it. So it makes up for that. But it is, like I work with a lot of different personalities, a lot of people, different people. So I think that's the hardest part, or the most difficult part is at times. It's kind of like managing different personalities. I have to deal with a lot of personnel like issues sometimes. So that stuff isn't always the most fun, but it comes along with the job. Deadlines, those can be really stressful. We have some really crazy scheduling, but for the most part, honestly, like I can't say anything really like bad or awful about it. Like I really love what I do. It's such I love the fast pace, the learning constantly, and I work with a lot of really great, amazing artists and people that I grew up watching stuff that they've animated. So it's more rewarding than difficult.
Awesome.
But it has its moments.
Oh yeah, no, it's
What exactly is the role of the producer? Because I know like vaguely that they can provide money for the production, or I'm not quite clear on what they actually do.
okay. So the question that came there was like, what the role of producer? Sorry, what is your name?
Killian.
Killian was just saying,
Brilliant.
basically his familiarity with the role of producer is as a providing the funds
Like
for the
budgets.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so is that, would that be within your remit of your role, or is that a separate type of producer?
It is not in my role right now, but I have our executive producer, who is my immediate supervisor and my boss. He does deal with budgets, not necessarily getting the funds in this way, but each episode has this budget that we have to stay within. We do go over at times. There's just things, that happen. So he's responsible for that and reporting to Gracie and those sorts of things. My role on The Simpsons as a producer, I work a lot with the animators and the directors. I'm also working closely with a coordinator supervisor, which was my role previously. So basically, like a day for me, I sign on, I'll look through our FileMaker, which is our tracking system. I look at the shows daily, all throughout the day. I do a lot of analyzing. I look at where we are in the process with an episode against the schedule and our shipping date. So I, along the way, I help figure out ways to make sure that we're shipping on time. If any problems come up, or, there's fires to put out, I help with that stuff. Like I said, personnel issues I also deal with. Speaking with artists, directors, just making sure and overseeing all the parts of the puzzle, and that we're staying on track.
Awesome. All right, thank you very much, and thank you for the question. And any other, that's awesome. Sorry, go ahead.
Other than the Seal episode, what was your favorite episode that's been released so far?
So far, I'm like, I can't remember all of the names. We did one last season. Oh, what was it? It was, I wish I could remember the name right now. It had to do with dogs, puppies. The Simpsons family brought in a trainer for their dog. That was one of my most recent favorites. I would say I'm really loving, I don't know if any of you have seen Disney Plus. We've done a lot of shorts recently. So the Star Wars short we did is one of my favorite things that we've done. I really, really enjoyed it. And I love that a lot of the shorts are like Maggie and Lisa. We did one recently with Lisa and Billie Eilish, which I really, really enjoyed working on that. So I love those.
That's awesome. Cheers. Thanks very much for the question. And I really liked I think it was last season, or could have been the season before, the Homer's Odysseus, the ancient Rome one. They went to the museum.
Oh, yes.
The mosaic stuff, and that was amazing. Like the background artwork was stunning in that episode. I was
So
like,
good.
wow. Yeah, that was awesome.
It was really beautiful.
I'll say, go ahead. Yeah.
Roughly how long would it take to like start off with like the idea for the episode and then like have it finished?
Okay, so that question was, how long would it take for an episode to be completed from start to end?
It is about, I think we're at 8 months for one episode. Yeah. And that's from the the first script, the record, to final shipping and airing. And we do have several episodes in production in various stages at one time.
Awesome. Okay. And so do you have a question as well?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, the voice actors are very important to Simpsons. If ever there was if ever it happened that they were unable or they retired or something happened, what would happen? Because I know there was a scare a few years ago of Carly Shearer, Mr. Burns. Okay, he wants to do something else.
Okay, so the question there is about, in terms of the role of the voiceover actors, is there any contingencies if an actor wasn't available or moved on to another role? Has the show ever considered contingencies of that matter? Would that be a cause for delay in production?
The only times that we have delays in production, sometimes we do, like if we have a guest star and we need to kind of work with their schedule for them to record, that can kind of take a little bit of time for us to get. We try to not let it delay us. If it's something that's going to delay us, we'll finish the show and update that as a retake in post when we get the show back. Usually we also we'll still get temp lines, so it won't be the actor or the person that's reading it, but someone else will come in and do the temp lines, so we still do have something to animate too.
Okay, awesome. And do they still do in booth recordings, or has that gone remote now as well with the actors?
I'm pretty sure they're mainly at home.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, because we still do table reads also, which is really cool. They're just on Zoom.
Okay.
Which I actually think I've been to table reads in person, that was one of the moments where I was like, oh my goodness, like this is my job. Like, are you kidding me? I was like 10 years old all over again. It was the coolest thing. But I like the table reads on Zoom too, because I can see everybody.
Yeah, that'd
like
be awesome.
In one page, instead of like having to look around the room. But yeah, that's one of my favorite parts of the job.
Awesome. Any other questions on the floor? Oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, what has been the biggest challenge moving from like cell drawings to digital?
Okay, so that question was, what's the biggest challenge moving from cell animation to digital?
I think it was just kind of getting everyone along in the beginning. It was really tough. We have these people who have been animators for years and working a certain way. So it was a little tough to get everyone in the transition. We did it slowly. Not everyone was digital at first. But other than that, I mean, once now everything's great. Korea, though, is not digital. So we do have a scene plan department that checks scenes to make sure that we're fielding correctly and characters aren't too small when things are printed out in Korea.
Cool, awesome. Cheers, thanks so much for the question. And so do you have a question?
You mentioned about scheduling, voice actors and all that stuff. I know some companies, they do, like someone might record lines on one end and then work around other people's schedules to record their own lines. Is that the case, or do you kind of get them all together, try to create a sense of teamwork and family by keeping them all together recording?
Okay, cool. So that question here was just in terms of juggling the schedule. Do they endeavor to try to get the actors to record around the same time to work as a team, or is it more broken up then to juggle around someone's schedule?
I'm not involved too much with that side of things, but from what I can tell, they mostly do record on their own. Yeah, even before we were at home.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are times when they do, work with each other or work off of each other, but it's not, we don't have to do it that way to get what we need from them.
It must be so second nature to them now. They could imagine not just their own characters, but the character they're talking to. Everyone could imagine in their minds talking to Homer, talking to Marge, what the response would be.
Especially, that's one of the things I love about the table reads is seeing, because a lot of them do more than one character on this show. So it's really fun to see Dan Castellaneta go from Homer to Grandpa, and he's talking to himself basically. So it's really cool.
That's awesome. We'll just be coming up to time shortly soon, so I'm happy to throw to one last final question. If anyone has one last one they want to throw. Yeah, go ahead.
What's your least favorite episode?
Oh, I don't think we can ask that one.
I don't have one. I love them all.
Good answer.
That's awesome. Well, listen, I think that's thank you everyone for attending, and thank you
so much.
This is great, and we'll be posting this up in the coming days. But yeah, thanks again. Really appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you. I wish I could see you all. Hi. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks again to Nikki, and thanks again to Jess. And that rounds up today's bonus episode of Credit and Conversation. We will have a teaser coming in the near future highlighting what lies ahead for season 2 of Credit and Conversation, along with another surprise bonus episode. And following that, we will then be full steam ahead with season 2 of Credit and Conversation. So if you enjoyed today's episode, if this is your first time listening, I invite you to go back and check out all 52 episodes of our previous 4 seasons of Credit and Conversation. If you have any questions, queries or comments and would like to reach out or learn more about what we do at TASQ Art, feel free to follow us online at TASQ Art, that's TASQART, or write to us at info@tasqart.com, TASQART. And just keep an eye out, because we just announced 5 short courses coming up in the very near future, from comic book storytelling through the visual means of page layout, illustration, with Joel Folder. We also have comic book digital lettering with Kevin Smith. We'll also have colouring, digital colouring for comics with Luca Medini. And we'll also have really interesting guest topics, such as how to use ethical AI for the marketing of comics. Not the generative production of artwork, but how to actually use it for the business lens of comics. And then also with Fair Garcia, we'll have another talk as well, exploring how the business side of comics as well, like the importance of developing the entrepreneurial branch to get the best out of your comic book career. So all of these short courses are available to sign up individually, and they'll be delivered via Zoom, and they'll be starting in just a couple of weeks. And it's also free and included for all of our students and Academy members, which you can become a member at any time of the year. But our new semester is starting out now on the 3rd of February. And if you are interested in becoming a student, now would be the time to inquire about the first semester starting back in September 2026. So until next time, this has been a copyright production, Macaulay Consultancy 2026.